I think something's wrong with this hat. That's better. In the last episode, I had a lot of fun going over the newest MLB hats, the 2020 spring training hats. But today, I want to take a little bit of a step back and go through some of my older hats from when I was a kid. I loved wearing hats a lot when I was a kid, and as you can see by the one that I'm wearing right now, they got worn a lot. As I got older, new hats came in, and the old ones got stored away in this bin right here. So we're going to take a look and unbox, bin box. We're going to unbox all of my old hats. I'll tell you all about them. But first, let's hit the C-roll. So I'll start with these three right here. These were three of my favorites when I was a kid. You've got the Oakland A's, you've got the Baltimore Orioles, and you've got a World Series hat from the '93 World Series. This is an official Oakland A's hat. I do love the way that the yellow really pops off of this hunter green here. For some reason, I wrote play hard, play strong. Motivation, that's all I can say. This Baltimore Orioles hat, this was never an official hat, this was always stylistic. It does have the orange crown with the black pinstripes in here with their 90s logo, and I just love the way the orange with the black pinstripes came off here. I wore this hat quite a bit here. And then this is probably one of the earliest hats I remember wearing. It is from the '93 World Series, which is of course Phillies versus Toronto Blue Jays. Joe Carter, that's all I can say. That was the first World Series I'd ever watched, so that was probably why I feel a little bit more connected to this. The thing you'll see about all these hats and why I really like these caps is because every one of them has a story behind it. I remember exactly what I was doing, who I was with when some of these hats were worn. Let's just, let's dig right in here. So these were two old school hats that were given to me by my grandfather. This was actually game worn by Mickey Mantle. No, it wasn't, but that'd be really cool if it was, wouldn't it? So these are really old school. These are new era. So this is definitely after the 50s. 1954 is when New Era became the official cap of Major League Baseball. Size 7 1/4, so it would probably still fit me. Look at that. So this one, summer of '98, if you're a baseball fan, you remember that quite fondly. This is the one I bought when Mark McGwire hit the 62nd home run. This is a pretty cool hat. It does have the Mark McGwire St. Louis logo right on there. I do remember that I broke this hat. If you'll see closely there's some stitching that my mom had to do. I remember the exact moment that I broke it. I just literally pulled it apart. I was mad at something. I do not remember what I was mad at, but I remember vividly when I ripped this hat. Chicago White Sox. This is an official hat. I bought this in Chicago at US Cellular Field, not Comiskey, US Cellular Field. I went on a trip to Chicago with my dad. The Cubs were not at home, so we went to see a White Sox game. And I remember we traveled all around Chicago for a couple of days before the game happened, trying to find an official Sox hat. That is definitely a Cubs town. It is not easy to find a Sox hat. But we did find one at the stadium. It was a really fun time. It was a great memory with my dad because it was just me and him. That was 2005. That was the year the White Sox won the World Series. So that was a really fun memory. I do really cherish this hat. You'll see Orlando Magic come up again in a second here. I was a big Penny and Shaq fan back when they were both on the Orlando Magic. This was just a pretty cool hat to wear. I wore this a lot to elementary school. I had a Penny Hardaway jersey. I wore this hat with it a lot. You weren't allowed to wear hats in any of my schools that I went to, but I would take them and I would carry them around all day just so that I could wear them before I went in, put them back on as soon as I got out. If it still fits, I might start rocking this again. Through. No. Who has a Florida Panthers hat? I don't know how I have two of these hats. No. Ugh. This was my karate studio when I was a kid. I got the hat. Duke Blue Devils. I was born at Duke University Hospital. My dad is a Duke University graduate, so I've always been connected to Duke. This is still a pretty cool hat. I don't know about the white brim. I would probably either go silver or black, but this was another hat I got from my grandfather. This is the Pillbox hat. that is probably most associated with the Pittsburgh Pirates. This was probably more popular around the turn of the century. A few teams were wearing them. They didn't last too long just because they do have kind of an odd shape. You look a little bit like a train conductor when you're wearing them. Pittsburgh did bring them back in the 70s. They're still pretty cool as far as, you can't really go wrong with black and yellow. Well, I shouldn't say that. You can go wrong with black and yellow. It's still a nice little throwback look. This is not an official one. This is just a really kind of interesting material on the inside. It does not hold its shape. If I wasn't holding it like this, it would not stay like this. It's not the highest quality cap, but I do remember my grandfather giving it to me. So anything that's given to me by a family member it's gonna stick around. I honestly don't know how I got so many of what we would describe as dad hats. Any of these hats that are these kind of khaki color. I don't really distinctly remember wearing a lot of these. I have no idea how I got this one. So I'm not 100% sure if there was any licensing involved in any of this, but when I played Little League, all of our teams were named after actual Major League teams. It was really cool because I could say, hey, I played for the Braves, I played for the White Sox. So these were the hats that I had for the couple years that I played. The other couple of times I did play for the Yankees, but we did not have official hats for those. We just had those really bad foam trucker hats that just said the word Yankees in some kind of weird non-Yankee script to it. I remember playing games wearing all of these hats. Some years we didn't do so well. Some years we did very well. It was just a really fun time being able to be out there playing baseball, wearing these hats. These are ones that I'm going to keep around forever. This is probably one of the most special hats that I have. This is the hat that I was wearing when I got engaged to my wife. I was wearing it backwards, so you can't see the logo in any of the pictures. This is one of those things that I'm saying I'm always going to remember what I was doing when I was wearing this hat, and it's always going to be special. These were some pretty iconic ones. Now, yes, I know that they are Dallas Cowboys hats. When I first started watching football, my best friend is a Dallas Cowboys fan. So that was kind of how I was introduced to football. So I do have these two. Now, these are objectively classic hats. I remember Emmitt Smith wearing this hat on the sidelines, and I'm pretty sure I remember seeing either Michael Irvin or Troy Aikman wearing those. You can see how wishy-washy of a fan I was when I was younger, especially when it came to football. Not really with baseball, but kind of whatever the flavor of the year was. But I did have a bunch of these hats. Even though the Cowboys, they're still pretty classic. Alright, let's get back on track. And in case you're wondering, this very, very worn and very dirty hat is from a fall ball league that I played in. I think I was 13 or 14. I remember we had a game that we just refused to call because of rain, because I think it was the last game of the year and we didn't have access to the field afterwards. So this was drenched, this was soaked. You can even see the number, my number 11 was written in there, but it is now just a blotch of ink because of how sweaty and rainy that it got. Again, that's what caps are meant for, people. They're meant to be worn. They're meant to look like this. I think something's wrong with this hat. That's better. As you can see, I had a ton of hats when I was a kid, and I do not regret wearing the crap out of all of them. I don't keep my hats on a shrine or anything like that. I respect you if you do, that is fine. There are all types of collectors, all types of hat wearers out there, whether you like keeping them in great shape for fashion purposes, or you just want to display them as collector's items, things you maybe want to sell and trade down the line. All of that is cool. If you had any of these hats when you were younger, or if you know of any people that have these hats, let me know down in the comments section. I love talking about some of these old school hats in there. If you like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're following me on Instagram, you'll see that I've narrowed down my choices of the 2020 spring training hats down to 4 options. I will let you know which one I got next time, but if you want to give your opinion, now it's not too late. Hit me up on Instagram. I'm Scott, and this has been All Caps. Catch you next time.